Hello everyone, I'm Babita Shukla. Welcome to our channel Unique Law Adda. Today we'll be discussing about AIB 20 December 2025 exam series. So in this particular video we'll be discussing about previous year question papers of AIB 19. So the first question is, in which case was a registered society held to be an authority for the purpose of Article 12? So the correct answer is Ajay Hasia versus Khalid Mujib. Reason: any body that is substantially controlled, financed, or performing a public function can be treated as state under Article 12. Now, the second question is, in which case did the Supreme Court hold that fundamental rights cannot be waived off? So, the quick tip here is fundamental rights are guaranteed protections and cannot be waived or surrendered voluntarily. So, the correct answer here is Basheshwar Nath versus IT Commissioner. Question number 3. By which constitutional amendment was clause 4B inserted into Article 16? So a quick tip here is that 81st Amendment Act 2000 introduced Article 16 4B to support reservation policies by allowing the carry forward of backlog vacancies. Options here are whether amendment number 81, 91, 77 or 85. So that is why I have clearly explained you that actually 81st Amendment Act 2000 introduced Article 16 4B to support reservation policies by allowing the carry forward of backlog vacancies. Now coming to question number 4. Which of the following statement is correct about 106th Constitutional Amendment Act? First is, it introduces Article 239A by which seats are reserved for women in the Legislative Assembly of the National Capital Territory of Delhi. Whether it introduces Article 330A providing for the reservation of seats for women in the House of People. Third, it also adds Article 334A, which states that the said amendment will commence after the first census has been taken after the commencement of the said act. The above stated shall cease to have effect on the expiration of period of 15 years from such commencement. So there are different options, whether first, second and third, whether first, third and fourth, whether second, third and fourth, or all of the above. So let me explain about this, that 106th Amendment introduced women reservation in the Lok Sabha. We have to, remember this. We have to associate 106th Amendment with the women reservation in Lok Sabha and state assemblies with implementation linked to census data. So, the correct answer is third, that is second, third and fourth. Now coming to question number 5. The Parliament enacts the Fair Housing Act 2024, which includes the following provisions. Section 3 prohibits the discrimination in renting or selling house based on religion, caste or gender. Section 6 imposes a penalty of 10,000 for discrimination. Section 10 makes mandatory for landlords to disclose the religious background of all tenants in the previous 10 years. So, a citizen challenges Section 10, arguing that it violates the right of privacy under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Supreme Court declares Section 10 unconstitutional but upholds the other provision of law. So, what exactly principle did the court apply in this decision? Whether doctrine of eclipse, whether doctrine of severability, doctrine of basic structure, doctrine of colorable legislation. So, the correct answer here is the doctrine of severability ensures that only the unconstitutional part of law is invalidated, not the entire law. So, this clearly demonstrates the application of doctrine of severability. In this case, Section 10 of the Fair Housing Society Act was struck down as unconstitutional for violating Article 21 right to privacy, but Section 3 and 6 were upheld as valid. So, the correct answer is number 2, that is doctrine of severability. Now coming to question number 6. the report of Comptroller and Auditor General of India relating to the accounts of a state shall be submitted to whether Governor, Committee on Public Undertakings, Estimate Committee, or the Public Accounts Committee. Remember, we have to remember that CAG, President, Union, and Governor, that is state. So President is for Union and Governor is for state. So what here they are asking? Reports of Controller and Auditor General of India relating to accounts of a state shall be submitted to Governor, because if it was for Union, then it would have been President, but here we are considering about the state, then the correct answer should be Governor. Question number 7. Which of the following article of Constitution of India declares that Supreme Court shall be court of record? So there are 4 articles which are mentioned here: 119, 111, 129, 135. So how we have to remember? Both Supreme Court Article 129 and High Court Article 215 are courts of records. So the correct answer is article number 129. Now coming to question number 8. Which article deals with the powers, privileges and immunities of Parliament and its members? Whether it is 107, 105, 108, 102. So article 105 is privileges of Parliament and article 194 is privileges of state legislation. So the correct answer, because we are discussing about the privileges of Parliament and its members, so correct answer will be section number 105. Now coming to question number 9. Which Constitutional Amendment Act inserted provisions related to GST? So 4 amendments are given: 99, 100, 101, 102. So the quick tip is GST was introduced by 101st Amendment. GST Amendment, 101st Amendment in 2016 and came into effect on 1st July 2017. So the correct answer is answer number 3, 101. Now coming to question number 10. Who can initiate impeachment proceeding against the President of India? Whether it is either House of Parliament, Supreme Court, only Lok Sabha, only Rajya Sabha. So impeachment of President involve both the houses. We have to remember that both the houses have to be there. Initiated in one, investigated and passed by both. So the correct answer will be either House of Parliament. Now coming to question number 11. Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023 considered force to be criminal force. First is when it is used unintentionally, when intentionally uses force only, when it is used intentionally without consent, causing injury, fear or annoyance. Fourth is when it is used in self-defense. So remember, criminal force requires both intention and lack of consent. Right? It requires both intention and lack of consent. Then only it is called as criminal force. Right? Now coming to question number 12. According to Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023, what is the maximum fine for making or using a document that resembles a currency note or a bank note under section 182(1)? Whether 100 rupee note, 500 rupee, 300 rupees, 1000 rupees. So counterfeiting is related to provision often prescribe both imprisonment and fine. So here is a fine limit is specifically defined. So it is 300 rupees. So under section 182 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023, the maximum fine for making or using a document resembling a currency or banknote is prescribed as 300. So this aims to prevent counterfeiting and circulation of false instrument. Now coming to question number 13. According to the provision of Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita 2023, the right of private defense of property extend to voluntary causing of death or any other harm to the wrongdoer in which of the following offences committed or attempting to be committed, whether it is robbery, housebreaking after sunset, theft, mischief or house trespass. First, second, third, three of them. So private defense of property allows extreme measures when faced with grave offences like robbery, housebreaking after sunset. So the correct answer is number 4, first, second and third. Robbery is also there, housebreaking after sunset is also there, theft, mischief or house trespass. So all of the above, first, second and third is included under this private defense. Now coming to question number 14. Rajesh is in a heated argument with Sunil, strikes him with a heavy iron rod. The blow fractures Sunil's arm and he is unable to use it for several weeks. The medical report confirms that the fracture amounts to grievous hurt. Which of the following offences has Rajesh committed? Whether it's a simple hurt under section 323 of IPC, whether voluntary causing grievous hurt under 325 of IPC, voluntary causing hurt under section 324 of IPC, attempt to commit culpable homicide under section 308 of IPC. So the injury caused was a fracture, which is legally recognized as grievous hurt. So section 325 of IPC, now BNS equivalent, punishes voluntary causing grievous hurt. Thus Rajesh is guilty under section 325. Fracture or dislocation of bone is always classified as grievous hurt. So correct answer is answer number 2, that is voluntary causing grievous hurt under section 325 of IPC. Now coming to question number 15. Amit, intending to cause the death of Vijay, attacks him with a knife. Vijay sustains severe injuries and dies on the spot. The investigation reveals that Amit acted with knowledge that his actions were likely to cause death. However, there is no evidence of premeditation or intent to murder Vijay. Which of the following offences has Amit committed? Whether it is murder under section 302 of IPC, culpable homicide not amounting to murder under section 304 of IPC, causing death by negligence under section 304 of IPC, voluntary causing grievous hurt under section 325 of IPC. So premeditated intent is murder 302. Knowledge without intent is culpable homicide. So the correct answer here is culpable homicide not amounting to murder under section 304 of IPC, because premeditated intent is murder under 302. So out of these four options, culpable homicide not amounting to murder under section 304 is the correct answer. Now coming to question number 16. Amit and Rani decide to break into a house at night with the intent of stealing valuables. No? There is an intent that they'll go and steal valuables. They use a crowbar to force open the door. But before they can take anything, the owner arrives. Amit and Rani panic and run away without stealing. The police arrest them. Which of the following offences under BNS have Amit and Rani committed? Whether it is an attempt to commit theft, is it a house trespass with intent to commit theft, whether it is an attempt to commit robbery or burglary. So this constitutes house trespass with the intent to commit theft. When they entered the house, they had this intention that they'll steal valuables. So the correct answer will be number 2, house trespass with intent to commit theft. Now coming to question number 17. Punishment for rape in case where the victim is a woman below the age of 16 or 12 included in which section of the BNS, whether 64, 65, 63 or 72. So always remember, aggravated circumstances like minor victim invoke stricter punishment. Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita 2023 prescribes stricter punishment for aggravated forms of rape, including those where the victim is a minor below 16 or 12. So section 65 deals with such cases. So the correct answer is point number 2, that is section 65. Now coming to question number 18. A new offence of snatching has been introduced by BNS. Which section of the BNS defines snatching as an offence? So the options are whether it is 308, 303, 305, 304. So snatching has been newly codified under BNS to deal with the rising cases distinct from theft or robbery, and the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita has classified snatching as a distinct offence under section 304, defines and punishes this act. So the correct answer is answer number 4, that is section 304. Now coming to question number 19. Consider the following statements and answer. Mr. Patel, being a police officer, receives a complaint that Raju was involved in a robbery of bank property and helped to hide valuables in his farm, as stated by the villagers. With this regard, the police officer, Mr. Patel, may arrest Raju without warrant, when Raju can be arrested only if he commits a non-cognizable offence in the presence of Mr. Patel. Since the reasonable complaint against Raju has been received and strong suspicion exists, he can immediately be arrested. Raju can be arrested only when he tries to escape or run away. Raju can be arrested to prevent him from making inducement, threat or promise to witness. So, whether option number 1 and 3 are correct, option number 2 and 4 are correct, only 4 is correct, only 2 is correct. So, let me explain. Arrest without warrant is valid when reasonable complaint and strong suspicion exist. Preventive measures are needed to stop inducement, threat to witness. Thus, statement 2 and 4 are correct. Arrest without warrant is justified in cognizable cases, especially to prevent interference with the justice. So, definitely the reasonable complaint against has been raised and strong suspicion exists. Also, Raju can be arrested to prevent him from making inducement, threat or promise to witnesses. Now coming to question number 20. BNSS introduces the provision of registration of FIR relating to commission of cognizable offences irrespective of area where the offence is committed. So the FIR is known as whether NCR, zero FIR, false FIR, counter FIR. Zero FIR refers to registration of an FIR at any police station irrespective of jurisdiction. So zero FIR is irrespective of any jurisdiction. It can be later transferred to appropriate station. Zero FIR ensures no delay in registering complaints of cognizable offences. So definitely answer is number 2, that is zero FIR. Now coming to question number 21. The BNS mandates a forensic team to visit the crime scenes to collect evidence for offences punishable with imprisonment for at least dash years, whether it is 2 years, 4 years, 7 years or 5 years. So let us understand, forensic involvement is compulsory where the punishment is at least 7 years. So forensics first approach is mandatory forensic team visit for offence with punishment of 7 years. So the correct answer out of this is number 3, that is 7. Now coming to question number 22. Which section of BNSS allows for trials in absentia of proclaimed offenders, whether 251, whether 349, 356 or 366. So section 356 of BNSS, trials in absentia of proclaimed offender. Trials in absentia, important reform to avoid indefinite delay due to absconding accused. So the correct answer here is number 3, that is 356. Now coming to question number 23. Which section of BNSS facilitates trials and proceedings to be held in electronic mode, whether it is 532, 330, 430, 530? So now let's understand is that section 530 of BNSS deals with electronic trials and proceedings. E-courts under BNSS, faster transparency and more accessible justice system. So the correct answer is fourth, section 530. Now coming to question number 24. Which section of BNSS repeats the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, whether 531, 101, 2, 5? So the correct answer is 531. Section 531, old CRPC replaced with BNSS 2023. So section 531, repeal of CRPC 1973. Question number 25. Which section mandates state government prepare and notify a witness protection scheme with a view to ensure the protection of witnesses, whether it is 98, 198, 298 or 398? So section 398 ensures a statutory basis for witness protection in India. What is witness protection? Crucial for fair trials and preventing hostile witness. So point number 4, 398 is the correct answer. Now coming to question number 26. Which section of BNSS mandates the appointment of the designated police officer in each district and police station to provide information about arrested individuals to general public? So option are 25, 35, 37 or 45. So the provision enhances transparency and safeguard human rights. So section 37 explains public right to know about the arrest. So the here correct answer is 37. Coming to question number 27. Which section of BNSS introduces provisions for identifying, attaching and forfeiting the property of proclaimed offender located outside India, whether it is 74, 76, 84 or 86? So this allows coordination with foreign jurisdiction to seize such assets, preventing offenders from enjoying illegal wealth abroad. So section 86, it explains the cross-border reach against proclaimed offender. So the correct answer is number 4, that is 86. Now coming to question number 28. Which section of BNSS places restriction on the adjournment of trials, ensuring expeditious resolution of cases, whether it is 146, 246, 346, 356? So now let's understand. Section 346 ensures that trials are conducted in a time-bound manner. So limit of adjustment promotes speedy disposal of cases under section 346. So the correct answer is number 3, that is 346. Now coming to question number 29. A suit is pending in District Court A, but one of the parties, Mira, requests its transfer to District Court B, claiming bias of the judge. The opposing party objects, stating the request is baseless. Who is the authority to decide whether the suit can be transferred? Whether it is District Court A, where the suit is pending, High Court or the Supreme Court, Civil Judge in District Court B, Committee of Local Advocates. So therefore Mira's request would be decided by High Court or Supreme Court. High Court intrastate and Supreme Court interstate defines the transfer of suits. So the here correct answer will be number 2, that is High Court or the Supreme Court. Now coming to question number 30. Maya files a suit in court A for the recovery of money from Neha. During proceedings, Neha requests that Seema be added as a defendant, claiming Seema is liable. Maya objects. The court reviews the application and decides Seema would be included as a defendant. Which principle of CPC is applied? Whether it is order number 1, section 10, joinder and substitution of parties, order number 7, rule 11, rejection of the plaint, order 5, service of summons, order 6, rule 17, amendment of pleading. So the quick tip is order number 1, rule number 10 of CPC, courts can add necessary parties suo motu on application. So this is the quick tip. So thus in an application of order number 1, rule number 10 of CPC, so the correct answer according to the options is number 1, that is order number 1, rule number 10, joinder and substitution of parties. Now coming to question number 31. Which section of the CPC allows for the appeal from the original decrees, whether it is 96, 100, 115, 104. So the quick tip here is appeals from original decrees are covered under section 96 of CPC. Section 96 deals with appeal from the original decree. Section 100 is second appeal. So the correct answer here will be number 1, that is 96. Just to share with you that 110 refers to the second appeal, but here we have written that original decree. So the original decree is under section 96. Now coming to question number 32. Under the CPC, what is the maximum time limit for filing a written statement in a suit? Whether it is 30 days, 60 days, 120 days or 90 days. So written statement equals to 30 days normal plus permissible extensions equals to maximum 90 days. So the correct answer out of the option will be number 4, that is 90 days. So written statement will always be 30 days per permissible extension equals to, it can extend up to maximum 90 days. Now coming to question number 33. Which section of the CPC provides exemption of the President of India and the Governor of State from personal appearance in the court? President exemption, they are asking about the exemption for President and Governor to appear in the court. So the correct answer is section 133, because 4 options have been given: 132, 133, 128, 130. 132 refers to women exemption. Section 133 is President and Governor exemption. Women exemption is under 132. President and Governor is always 133. So if the question comes for women exemption, then we'll have to consider 132. And if President and Governor exemption comes, we have to consider 133. So the answer number is section number 2, that is section 133. Now coming to question number 34. What is the term used for a court's power to transfer a case from one court to another under the Code of Civil Procedure? So whether it is res judicata, whether it is reference, whether it is review, whether it is transfer of suits. So let's understand this concept. Courts have the power to transfer a case from one court to another if required for justice, fairness or convenience of the parties. CPC provision is transfer of suit. This is different from review, a re-examination of the judgment. Reference is submitting a legal question to higher court. And res judicata is finality of the decision. So the conclusion is, correct answer is transfer of suits. So transfer of suits is what? Shifting proceedings for justice, not to be confused with review or reference. So the correct answer is number 4, that is transfer of suits. Now coming to question number 35. Under which order of the CPC the procedure for summary suit is provided? whether it is 35, whether it is 37, whether it is 34, whether it is 36. So now let's understand what is the meaning of summary suits. Summary suits are special procedures for speedy disposal of cases, especially for the recovery of debts or liquidated demands. Order number 37 of CPC deals with the summary procedure. The defendant must obtain the court's permission to defend, otherwise the plaintiff gets judgment quickly. So the summary suits are governed by order number 37 of CPC. So order number 37 equals to summary suit, that is for fast track remedy in commercial dispute. So the correct answer is number 2, that is order order number 37. Now coming to question number 36. Which section of the CPC deals with the principle of res judicata, whether it is section 11, 10, 12 or 9? Res judicata, what does it mean? A matter once judicially decided is finally decided. It prevents the same parties from re-litigating the same issue. So the section 11 of CPC section bars courts from trying suits or issue already adjudicated between the same parties by a competent court. So here the conclusion comes that section 11 refers to the doctrine of res judicata. So res judicata ensures finality of the judgments, prevents multiplicity of litigation. So the correct answer is number 1, that is section 11. Now coming to question number 37. Dash of the CPC provides for a interpleader suit, whether it is section 38, 88, 99, 89, 92, 86. So what is interpleader suit? Interpleader suit is filed when a person faces rival claims over the same property, money, and seeks court direction on rightful owner. So the relevant section here is section 88 of CPC. It gives clearly provides for filing of interpleader suit. So the section 88 refers to interpleader suit. Interpleader suit help avoid multiple liabilities. Court decide rightful claimant. So the correct answer is number 18, that is number 1, that is section 88. Now coming to question number 38. Which section of the CPC provide for the payment of compensatory suits? So whether it is section 35, 35A, 35B, section 36. So what is compensatory cost? When litigation is frivolous, false or vexatious, court may impose compensatory cost. So 35A of CPC empowers court to impose such cost on the losing party to discourage misuse of process of law. So section 35A refers to compensatory cost. So 35A discourages false, vexatious claims by awarding compensation. So out of these options, number 2, that is section 35A, is a correct answer. Now coming to question number 39. Which word is inserted in section 22 of BSA that was not present in section 24 of the Evidence Act? Whether it is inducement, coercion, threat or promise. So evolution of Evidence Act to BSA, Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam 2023 replaced the Indian Evidence Act 1872. Now the new insertion is section 22 of BSA, which includes coercion. The word coercion as a factor making confessions inadmissible. The old Evidence Act had inducement, threat or promise, but not coercion. So the new term added is coercion. BSA 2023 modernized provision coercion is a new addition to confession rules. The correct answer out of these options is number 2, that is coercion. Now coming to question number 40. Existence of course of business when relevant is discussed in section 12 of the BSA of 2023, section 13 of BSA 2023, section 14 of BSA 2023, section 15 of BSA 2023. Courts often rely on existence of course of business to infer whether the fact is probable. Example is routine entries in account books. So the relevant section here is section 14 of BSA 2023, deals with relevancy of existence of course of business. So the correct answer will be section 14 of BSA. Evidence of routine course of business strengthens probability of facts. So the correct answer out of these options will be number 3, that is section 14 of the BSA 2023. Now coming to question number 41. In a criminal trial, Rajesh is accused of theft. During investigation, the public recovers a stolen laptop from a location frequented by a Rajesh. His fingerprints are found on the laptop. According to Bharatiya Sahita Sakshya Adhiniyam 2023, how should the court interpret this evidence? Whether recovered laptop and fingerprints are automatically considered conclusive proof of Rajesh guilt? Recovered laptop and fingerprints are circumstantial evidence that can be considered along with other evidence but do not by themselves prove guilt beyond reasonable doubt. The evidence is inadmissible because the police did not obtain a search warrant, or the fingerprints must be verified by at least 2 independent forensic experts before being presented in courts. So now let's understand the nature of fingerprints. Fingerprints and recovery of stolen property are not direct evidence but fall under the category of circumstantial evidences. Fingerprints were found on the laptop, but these does not falls under direct evidence. They falls under circumstantial evidence. Interpretation under section BSA under BSA 2023, such evidence strengthens suspicion. Suspicion उनका strengthen होता है, but conviction cannot rest solely on it. Courts must consider it along with the corroborating evidences. So the conclusion here is that fingerprints and laptop recovery equals to circumstantial evidence, not conclusive proof. Because circumstantial evidence must form a complete chain of fact before conviction. So out of the above options, answer number 2, that is circumstantial evidence, is the correct answer. Now coming to question number 42. Where a document is executed in several parts like printing, lithography, photography, video recording, computer resource as electronic or digital record, the BSA 2023 classifies each part as whether primary evidence, secondary evidence, circumstantial evidence or scientific evidence. So, what is the definition of primary evidence? Primary evidence is the document itself produced for inspection by the court. It includes original documents or parts executed in multiple form. So BSA 2023 provision says that according to section 62 of BSA 2023, documents executed in several parts like print, lithography, video recording or electronic records are all treated as primary evidence. Thus, every executed part qualifies as primary evidence. So, the primary evidence is the best evidence rule, original or multiple executed parts. So, correct answer out of the options is number 1, that is primary evidence. Now coming to question number 43. Which section of BSA provides that no court shall require any communication between the ministers and the President of India to be produced before it? Whether it is 65, 165, 268 or 168. So the correct answer is 168. Why? Let's understand why option number 2, 165 is correct answer. Confidentiality of state communication. Certain communication at the highest executive level must be immune from the judicial scrutiny to preserve national security and confidentiality. Section 165 of BSA provides that no court shall be compelled production of communication between President and Ministers of India. This preserves the doctrine of executive privilege. So, the correct answer here is section 165. BSA section 165 refers to privilege for confidential president minister's communication. Sorry. Now coming to question number 44. According to section 46 of Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam, when character evidence is relevant in civil cases, always relevant to prove conduct, only when related to other relevant fact, never relevant, only in criminal cases. So the correct answer is only when related to other relevant fact. Let's understand why. General principle is that character evidence is generally inadmissible in civil cases because cases are decided on facts and rights, not on moral character. Exception in BSA is section 46, which allows character evidence only if it is directly connected to another relevant fact in dispute. Example is a person's reputation in defamation suit. So thus it is admissible only when linked to another relevant fact. Civil cases, what happens in civil cases? Character evidence generally irrelevant except when tied to other facts. So that is why we have written that answer number 2, only when related to other relevant fact, is the correct answer. Now coming to question number 5. As per section 78(2) of BSA 2023, presumptions about the officer signing or certifying a document is whether officer's signature is assumed to be forgery, officer did not hold the claimed office at the time of signing, officer held the official character claim when signing or certifying the document authenticity is independent of the official's official character. See, law presumes official act to have been validly performed unless proven otherwise. Section 78(2) of BSA, when the document is certified, signed by an officer, court presume that the officer indeed held the claimed official character. Thus, presumption favors authenticity of the officer's act. So, presumption of official acts is valid until disapproved by the contrary evidence. So, the correct answer out of these options is number 3, officer held in official character claimed. Now coming to question number 46. Under section 146 of BSA 2023, when are leading questions permissible in court proceeding? Always allowed in examination in chief without restriction, not allowed during cross-examination, can be asked in any stage without objection, permitted during cross-examination and when matters are introductory, undisputed or proved. So leading questions are defined. It suggests, let's take example. You are at the crime scene. You were at the crime scene. Weren't you? This is leading question. Rule under BSA section 146 permits leading questions during cross-examination and during examination in chief only for introductory, undisputed or already proved matters. So thus leading questions are mainly for cross-examination. They are suggestive, like we have understand, like if during leading questions are that you are giving words to that person. You were at the crime scene, weren't you? So yeah, people will say yeah, I was there. So this is the leading question, that you are giving words in the mouth of the person whom you are examining. So the correct answer is permitted during cross examination and in introductory matters. Now coming to question number 47. Which of the following is the characteristics of mediation? Mediator imposes binding decision. Neutral third party facilitate negotiation. Mediator act as a judge. Always court ordered. So the correct answer is neutral third party facilitates negotiation. Why? Nature of mediation is an ADR mechanism, right? Where a neutral third party has disputing parties negotiate and reach a settlement. The mediator does not impose a decision. Parties themselves agree voluntarily. So mediation facilitative, not binding. Voluntary, party driven, neutral facilitator. So that is mediation. So the correct answer is neutral third party facilitates negotiation. Question number 48. A dispute arises between ABC Limited and XYZ Private Limited regarding arbitration. Parties fail to agree on arbitrator. Which provision of Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 applies? Court appoint arbitrator under section 11. Parties must mutually select an arbitrator. Arbitrator must be appointed by ICA. Appointment issues resolved by conciliation. So what is arbitration clause? When parties agree to arbitrate but fail to agree on arbitrator, intervention is needed. So section 11 of ACA 1996, it empowers High Court or Supreme Court to appoint arbitrator when parties cannot decide mutually. So hence section 11 governs appointment. Court steps into to appoint arbitrator if parties fail. So out of the above options, number 1, that is court appoints arbitrator under section 11. Now coming to question number 49. Which of the following is not an advantage of ADR? Faster than litigation, more confidentiality, always result in binding decision, less expenses than court cases. So ADR includes mediation, conciliation, arbitration. So it is usually faster, cost effective and obviously confidential. Not all our ADR methods are binding. Mediation, conciliation are voluntary and non-binding unless recorded as settlement. Only arbitration gives binding awards. So always binding is not an advantage of ADR. So ADR always binding, binding only in arbitration. So the correct answer is number 3, that is always result in binding decision. Now coming to our last question in this particular video. Kiran wins arbitral award. Meena refuses to pay citing irregularities. Kiran seeks court enforcement. Which ACA 1996 section applies? Whether it is section 34, which challenges award, whether it is section 36, which automatically enforce unless set aside, section 9, interim relief, section 11, appointment of arbitrator. So enforcement of principle is once an arbitral award is passed, it is enforceable like a civil decree. So section 36 ACA, it provides automatic enforcement of awards unless stayed by the court under section 34. So enforcement is governed by section 36. Section 36 challenge, section 36 enforcement. So out of the above options, section 36, that is number 2 here out of these options, 36 is correct. So now in this particular series, this is the last question. We'll be continuing in our next video. Thanks for watching. Feel free to contact us. WhatsApp number, WhatsApp channel link, everything is given on the screen. Keep viewing. Thank you. We'll meet in the next slide. Thank you so much.